Hello, welcome, veggie lovers. I am live streaming from Riverside, and it is our first time to try this. Live streaming to Facebook and YouTube, and today I'm going to talk about beans so that I don't have to do it all by myself. So let's see if this is working. There we go. So we are live on Facebook and live on YouTube. Yay! So excited about this. Okay, so I am going to talk about beans today because we have a new freebie coming out very soon that I hope that you will take advantage of. And it is lots of recipes, how you can incorporate beans into all the different meals and snacks, desserts, all of those things. So, um, but before we even talk about the freebie, I want to talk about why I even care about beans in the first place. Hopefully, a lot of you already eat beans, but I feel that in the United States, from my experience, talking to my patients and their families, a lot of people just aren't familiar, just aren't comfortable with beans, don't know how to incorporate them into their meals, but also maybe a little bit afraid of beans because we've associated beans with flatulence, and that flatulence is a bad thing, and maybe even some people get bloated when they eat beans and it's uncomfortable. The other thing that you may have heard is that beans are bad for you because beans have lectins and all of these things from Dr. Gundry, who wrote The Plant Paradox. Well, guess what? I finally read the book. I'm going to admit, because people kept asking me if I've read that book and what I thought. So I finally read it, and I have some thoughts about that. But why beans? First of all, beans, there's so many. There's so many beans, okay? And this is the legume family, which includes split peas, lentils, and beans. There's over 400 different varieties of edible beans in the world. In the United States, we typically consume about 15 varieties. Pinto, that's probably the most popular because when I ask my families if they eat beans, almost everybody has had refried beans, okay? And a lot of times, refried beans, you have at a Mexican restaurant and it's made from pinto beans. So that is the most widely consumed bean in the United States. And I don't discriminate. There are no bad beans, okay? So whatever kind of bean you'll eat, just keep eating that bean, and maybe I will convince you today to incorporate other kinds of beans. So besides pinto, we eat navy beans, Great Northern, dark red kidney beans, light red kidney beans, black beans, garbanzo beans, adzuki, small red, baby lima, green baby lima, large lima, black eyed peas, cranberry, and pink beans. So those are the most commonly eaten beans in the United States. But remember, there's over 400 different varieties of edible beans in the world. So let me tell you the reality about how much beans we don't eat in the United States. I mean, this is better than I thought it was going to be, but the average person in the United States consumes 7.5 pounds of beans per person per year. That sounds like a lot, and it's more than I thought, actually. And maybe I'm bringing the average up, or a lot of the vegans are bringing the average up, because it seems like more than what I think most of my families are eating. But let's compare that to some other foods that are commonly eaten. So in the United States, the average person consumes 40 pounds of cheese per person per year. 40 pounds. And 222 pounds of red meat and poultry. Okay, so 40 pounds of cheese per person per year, 222 pounds of cheese and poultry compared to 7.5 pounds of beans. So let's get our bean intake up. Why? Because Beans are so health promoting. They are going to decrease our risk of chronic disease. The reason is because they are so high in fiber. They have soluble and insoluble fiber, and each bean, as you will learn from Dr. Will Bolsowich from his book Fiber Fueled, each bean, each whole plant has different types of fibers in there. So that's why it's a good idea to increase our diversity of the beans that we eat. But fiber is like my very favorite thing about beans. But beans are so amazing because they're high in fiber. They're high in antioxidants. A lot of people, when they think of antioxidants, they think of these beautiful, colorful fruits and veggies, which is true because all our whole plant foods have antioxidants. But beans are rich in antioxidants. And if you look at all the different varieties of beans, they're so colorful, they're so beautiful. I have some in my pantry right now that they're called like Christmas beans, and they have red and all of these beautiful colors in there. Those are nutrients that are in that bean. So lots of fiber, high in antioxidants. Of course, they're a great source of protein, which a lot of people are concerned about. So if you're concerned about getting enough protein, look no further. Beans are wonderful. But they also have iron in them, B vitamins, copper, magnesium, manganese, zinc, phosphorus, calcium. So healthy for you. But let's go back to the fiber. On average, half a cup of beans has 7 grams of fiber. 7 grams of fiber. In the United States, the average person is consuming less than 15 grams of fiber per day. So you can get 7 grams of fiber in just half a cup of beans. They are the richest source of fiber from a whole food, from a whole intact food. Okay. So it's really great. Because beans are very low in fat naturally, they have no cholesterol. You only find cholesterol from animal products. They are so high in fiber and they have all these vitamins. They decrease our risk of type 2 diabetes, of high cholesterol, heart disease, high blood pressure, all of these things. So, adding beans to your diet, especially if when you add beans, you're crowding out some of the other foods, can really decrease your risk of chronic disease. So, one study, when it came to hypertension, high blood pressure, they did a study that when they gave the subjects just under 1 cup of beans per day and they compared a control group eating the same amount of calories per day, they found a significant decrease in their blood pressure, both systolic and diastolic. And just think, you could start to change your diet and see that how that helps some of your chronic conditions that may even be more powerful than medications, or at least help you decrease your medications and work alongside your medications. Plus, you're going to feel really good. So let's talk about some of the concerns that people have about beans. And one of them is phytates. So phytates are naturally found in a lot of plant foods, and a lot of people call them anti-nutrients, or because they compete with other nutrients or it may block other nutrients. But what's really awesome about beans is that just by soaking them, or you can sprout them, um, and of course cooking them, which everybody does, pretty much almost everybody when they eat their beans, then you actually destroy those phytates and you destroy the majority of the phytates so that it doesn't really have a significant enough effect on the other nutrients that it would outweigh the benefits of the beans. And some small amount of phytates might actually have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. So, you also need to think about the dose of these foods and if it's creating that just enough stress that actually benefits our body. So, same thing for the lectins. And I read The Plant Paradox, the book, and Dr. Gundry says the same thing. Dr. Gundry eats beans. I'm not saying that I'm an advocate for what he teaches, but a lot of people have been asking me in conferences and talks that I've done. Well, what about the plant paradox? What about lectins? Well, I read the book and he eats beans because he says in his book, which goes along with the research that I found, that whenever you cook your beans, you destroy the lectins. Okay. And so, lectins, again, they're another component that are found in some plants that can be anti nutritive. But when it comes to beans, soak them, cook them, and you destroy the lectins. So you don't have to worry about them. I'm a big advocate if you're going to make your beans yourself. I'm a big advocate of soaking your beans anyway because it improves the cooking time, it helps the texture, and it decreases the resistant starches that you find in the beans so that it gives you less gas. So when I cook beans for myself, I love to soak them. I usually do at least an overnight or a 24-hour soak, rinse them really well, cook them, and then even after you cook them, you can rinse them again and get some of those undigestible starches off. And so that helps people who are worried about gas and some of these things. Antioxidants, super high in beans. In red beans, 13,727 is the antioxidant scale. That's just in half a cup of beans. It's present in all of the beans in different numbers, different percentages. So you can't go wrong. Just eat more beans. Calcium, you get between 75 and 200 milligrams per cup. Soybeans are some of the highest at 200 milligrams per cup. So that's a good amount of calcium. So if you're eating beans every day, you are deriving calcium from your beans. In addition to iron, which is the number one nutrient deficiency in the world, is iron. So you get between 3 to 6 milligrams of iron per cup of beans. Some are better than others. Lentils are amazing. So lentils are a great source of iron. And so those are all great reasons for eating beans. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the probiotics, our gut bacteria, our microbiome. Beans are prebiotic in nature. So that means that whenever you eat beans, you are feeding your gut bacteria. And that's one of the best things you can do because when you give your good gut bacteria the food it wants, you help those colonies flourish and grow, and they're symbiotic with us. So they support us, support our health as well. It's also one of the only foods that has been associated with longevity. So, longevity, living a long, healthy life, you have an 8% decreased risk of premature death for every 20 grams increase in legume intake. So 20 grams is a very small amount. It's just over a tablespoon of beans. So for every about tablespoon of beans that you eat, 8% decrease in premature death. I mean, that's really great. It's also eaten in all the blue zones. So if you have not heard of the blue zones yet, the blue zones are places around the world where there are people that are living long, healthy lives to their 90s and hundreds. They're thriving, they're having productive lives full of purpose. Well, one thing that's in common with their diet is that they all eat legumes, beans. So longevity, probably it's there. The other thing about beans that I want you to realize is that when it comes to eating a diet that supports a healthy weight, a healthy body, beans, because of their fiber content, because of their water content when you cook them, are low in calorie density. So on average, around 600 calories per pound. That means you can eat a big volume of beans. It can give you the calories you need for, giving you energy, for living your life, for doing your sports, your athletics, but you're not over consuming. You're not over, you know, you're not taking in too much of what's good. You want to take in just the right amount to support you, support your growth, support your activities, but not over consume. And so that's what calorie density helps us do. When we eat plants are low in calorie density, so we can have a good amount that feels comfortable to us, that fills us up, but doesn't end up being too much intake. So about 600 calories per pound. Compare that to beef, which remember, all animal products have zero fiber, no fiber. There is no fiber at all in animal products. And because of that, the calorie density ends up being higher. Also, animal products is where we derive cholesterol. So there's cholesterol is only found in animals, not in plants. But if you compare that to beans, which are about 600 calories per pound, beef has about 1100 calories per pound. Also, there's not going to be any fiber in there, and it's going to be zero or very low in antioxidants, because where does that beef get its antioxidants from? From the grass it ate, or for the food it took in, because it's coming from the plants, okay? So just another thing that I wanted to point out. So that is what I wanted to tell you about beans. The freebie is coming out soon, and I will share that with you as soon as it's out. But it's going to have recipes for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, desserts, because you can include beans into any meal or snack. It's so easy just to throw it in things. When I talk to families, if there's meals you already make, figure out how to put beans in there. You don't even have to create new recipes. Pasta, throw some chickpeas. Chickpeas happen to be my favorite bean. I love them. I love the texture. They're so adorably shaped. I mean, have you ever seen something shaped like that? It's so cute. You just want to give it a hug. I love to just throw it in my food. So throw it in my salads, in my bowls, in my pasta, on top of pizza. There's so many different things you can do to your existing recipes. But another thing that's easy is you can make roasted beans. Roasted chickpeas work great, but I've roasted other beans as well that you can eat as a snack. You can incorporate beans into muffins. You can incorporate beans into desserts, black bean brownies, chickpea blondies. These things are easy to make. You can put them into smoothies. White beans, chickpeas, stick them into your smoothies. You can blend them into pasta sauce. Just take a handful of beans, put it into your pasta sauce, blend it in, and then you can put that regularly as you regularly would in your pasta. So really, there's no place that you can't put beans. It can go anywhere. And don't forget about tofu too. Even though tofu is a minimally processed form of beans, it is a great food that decreases our risk of chronic disease as well. And you can do anything with tofu, from breakfast, lunch, dinner, desserts to snacks. So there's so many ways that we can use our beans. It's just about opening our minds, being creative, trying different things. Bean dips, kids love dips, spreads on your wraps, on your sandwiches. There's so many different ways to use beans. So when this freebie comes out, I'll make sure that you know that you can find it, download it, so that you too can start eating more beans. Be creative, have fun, get those antioxidant points in there, get the fiber in there, and just give it time. Okay. So for those of you that are hesitant because you know that beans mess with your digestion or give you gas, one thing to know is that gas is not necessarily a bad thing. So it means that you are feeding your gut bacteria and they're having a blast. They're eating up the food and then they're creating that gas. Two is you have to go in gently and increase your bean intake slow. If you're not used to having beans, if you're not eating a lot of fiber in your diet, start low and go slow. Just increase it just little amounts, okay? And then your gut bacteria are going to adapt. They're going to keep up with you. They're going to adapt. I already talked to you about soaking, rinsing. If you're using canned beans and not making your own beans, then rinse those beans really well, because you're taking off some of those resistant starches whenever you rinse them. There's a few other things that you can do. The smaller beans, so split peas, lentils, are easier to digest and have less of those resistant starches. So you can also focus on those as you begin. Then you can use different things like epazote, which is uh, this product that you can, it's another plant that you can put into your beans as you cook them, which helps break down some of the resistant starches. And kombu, which is a sea vegetable, you can also use that as well. And I know that some people use baking soda as well. So if you want to try that, then you can look it up and see how to cook your beans in baking soda. I personally love to make my own beans. Like I said, I soak them for 12 to 24 hours, rinse them well, cook them, and I make them in a pressure cooker, and they're just perfect. So every weekend, sometimes twice a week, I'm making beans in the pressure cooker, and that way I ensure that I have plenty of legumes for all of my recipes and meals. So that is all about beans. I hope this helps explain why we should eat more beans, why they are so health promoting, and gives you a little bit more courage to be creative, to try more beans in your life. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you have a very plantastic day.